Hello everyone, today I'm going to demonstrate the usage of CelerData Manager. After logging in, you will see several tabs at the top, each corresponding to various commonly used functionalities. On the dashboard interface, we can see various basic data about the cluster, such as the cluster's data volume, the number of FE and B nodes, the queries per second QPS, the query latency, the connection count, the imported data volume. This section shows the count of successful and failed queries. This section displays the number of cluster alarms. In summary, from this interface, we can quickly understand the current health status of the cluster. If we want to view more detailed cluster information, we can switch to the cluster interface. From here, we can see the cluster's CPU, memory, disk, and network. We can also see the queries per second, QPS, and more detailed query latency. If we want to delve deeper into the detailed information of each node, we can switch to the node interface. Here, we can select nodes. We can also create new tabs. Here, we can add, for example, the 99th percentile latency. And save this tab for quick access later. To access the data set on S3, we first create a glue catalog. The create catalog statement is here. Clicking run will create the catalog. Then, we switch back to the catalog page. We can see that in addition to the previously created glue catalog, there is also a default catalog, which is the system's built-in catalog. Clicking on the link associated with the catalog, we can see the databases underneath it. Tables, partitions, and all tablet information. On the Edit page, let's execute a query. Select the catalog and the database. Select the SQL statement to be executed. We can see that this statement took 1586 milliseconds to execute. Clicking on the Query ID link, we can see detailed information about this query and its plan. But we can't see its profile, so we can't determine the execution bottleneck of this query. If we want to see the profile, we can re-execute this SQL statement using the Analyze mode. This time it took 1453 milliseconds. From the profile, we can see that the bottleneck of this SQL is mainly on the scan node. This is because we are accessing data on S3 using the glue catalog. If we want to speed up the query, we can import the data from S3 to the local data warehouse, which is our previously mentioned default catalog. Here, we select the default catalog and one of its databases to create a local table. After creating the local table, we can use the insert into statement to import data from the external table to the internal table. Once the import is done, we can re-execute this SQL on that table. We can see that this time it took 244 milliseconds to execute. We can see all our historical queries in the Queries page, including filtering by time range. The Slow Queries section records some slow queries. These queries have execution time exceeding 5,000 milliseconds. On the Alarms page, we can manage cluster alarms. In the Notify Management section, we can configure various notification mechanisms for alarms. Here, let's take email and Facial Robot as examples. To enable the cluster to send emails, we need to configure the SMTP settings in the Settings section. Once the configuration is successful, we fill in the email address in the email field. In the Facial Robot field, we fill in the webhook URL. Then, we create an alarm rule. Here, we create one rule. Its check period is 1 minute, and it checks the query latency of the 99th percentile. If within this 1 minute, there is a query latency exceeding 500 milliseconds, and it occurs at least once, it will trigger a warning alarm. We switch to the Editor section to try executing a long query to trigger this alarm. Previously, this query took approximately 1,500 milliseconds to execute, so it should trigger the alarm. Let's run it once. This time, it took 2,230 milliseconds. We can see that in Facial, we have received this alarm message. At the same time, we have also received this alarm message in our email. Under CelerData Manager, scaling out is easy. Here, let's take adding a B node as an example. Suppose we already have a new machine, and the SSH trust relationship has been established between this machine and the manager node. We switch to the node interface and click Add Host here. Enter the IP of the new machine. Confirm. During this process, the manager deploys software packages to this new machine. After successful deployment, we can see that this machine has joined the machine list and is in the running state. Then, we can deploy various services on this machine, including FE, B, and Broker. Here, we select B for scaling out. Select the newly added node. We can see that a prompt appears here. Okay, now this machine has been added to the cluster. To verify the effect, we switch to the Editor section. Execute the statement show backends. We can see that there are now 2 nodes. Thus, the B scale-out process is complete. Finally, let's take a look at the settings and diagnose interfaces. Under Settings, we can upgrade the license. We can also upgrade the software packages. In the Diagnose interface, we can analyze the runtime environment of Starox in depth. In the Log section, we can see the logs of FE and B from different nodes and time periods. In the hardware test section, we can see the machine's configuration. We can see that this machine has 8 CPU cores, 32 GB of memory, and a 10 GB network card. In the System Diagnose section, we can customize and generate more detailed information and package it for download. These are the main features of CelerData Manager. Thank you.